Gently close your eyes. Do deep breathing. We'll chant Om once together. Synchronize the chanting of Om with your exhalation. Breathe in. Sahana bhavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavaditamastu ma vitvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Gently open your eyes. We'll chant from verses 11 to 15 of chapter 3. Devan bhavayatanena,
Devan bhavayatanena,
te deva bhavayantu vaha,
te deva bhavayantu vaha,
parasparam bhavayantaha,
parasparam bhavayantaha,
Shreyah paramavapsyatha,
Shreyah paramavapsyatha,
Ishtan bhogan hi vo devaha,
Ishtan bhogan hi vo devaha,
dasyante yajna bhavitaha,
dasyante yajna bhavitaha,
taidattana pradayaibhyaha,
तैर्दत्तान प्रदायैभ्यः
yo bhunkte stena eva saha,
यो भुङ्क्तेस्तेन एव सः
yajnashishtashinah santaha,
यज्ञशिष्टाशिनः सन्तः
muchyante sarvakilbishaihi,
मुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषैः
bhunjate te tvagam papaha,
भुञ्जते ते त्वगं पापाः
ye pachantyatmakaranat,
ये पचन्त्यात्मकारणात्
annad bhavanti bhutani,
अन्नाद् भवन्ति भूतानि
Parjanyadanna sambhavah.
Parjanyadanna sambhavah.
Yajnāt bhavati parjanyah.
Yajnāt bhavati parjanyah.
Yajñah karma samudbhavah.
Yajñah karma samudbhavah.
Karma brahmodbhavam viddhi.
Karma brahmodbhavam viddhi.
Brahmakshara samudbhavam.
Brahmakshara samudbhavam.
Tasmat sarvagatam brahma.
Tasmat sarvagatam brahma.
Nityam yajñe pratishtitam.
Nityam yajñe pratishtitam.
Hari Om, and a very good day to all of you. So in the last few sessions, we have been seeing what is the Rajasic approach towards the principle of Parasparam. What you need to realize is that Parasparam, which is the principle of give and take, is there in every aspect of your life. When I say give and take, what is meant is outflow and inflow. Even right now, as the speaker is speaking these words, from his point of view, this is the outflow part. And whatever you receive, that comes back to him as a feedback. The feedback may be through your points, the feedback may be in the form of energy, it can be anything. Now that is the inflow. There cannot be just one of these two aspects in any transaction. So you're going to office and working, your effort, your work is the outflow, and whatever salary you receive, whatever recognition which you receive, whatever it is, that is the inflow. You cannot have just one force functioning. So we can look at this from different points of view. One is the outflow and inflow. The other is, a few sessions back I had mentioned to you, creation and destruction. Every moment something is being created and something else is being destroyed. For example, you make a cup of coffee. Now, let's say you use milk, there is coffee with milk. So, the raw form, the original form of the milk, the coffee and the sugar, all those things are destroyed and a new form, new taste is created. That is what we call as a coffee. So, destruction, construction, that is always going on. Similarly, we can also look at it from the point of view of give and take. You are always giving something and you are taking something. Even in a simple process of breathing, you are giving out, that is, you have to exhale and you have to inhale. You can't just keep on doing one of the two. Actually, it is only when you exhale properly that you can inhale. Similarly, only if you inhale properly, you can exhale. You have to just think about it. So, when it comes to give and take, now when we come to the sattva part, it will become even more clear, whatever point I am mentioning here. We always say the give and take has to be balanced. See, generally what the idea which people have is that they think sattvic way of functioning is only to give, never to take. It is like saying a sattvic person will only exhale, he will never inhale. Is it possible? Nature itself is designed based on this principle of outflow and inflow only. So, where is your focus on? Where is your emphasis on? That is the question. So, a tamasic person's focus is only on himself or herself. A rajasic person's focus is on self-interest, even though he goes through the process of giving and taking. A sattvic person's emphasis will be on giving. That doesn't mean he will not take. That's why if you just superficially also, if you read the first line, which is talking about the sattvic people, he says the virtuous who eat the remnants of sacrifice are freed from all faults, which means eat. Eating here means taking, consuming. So, the sattvic person also takes. Why I am mentioning this is several sadhaks have mentioned in their points that this is really becoming an eye-opener, because we thought that sattva means only giving. So, this is where you need to apply your intellect and understand these things in depth. See, what has happened is spirituality has been misunderstood. See, when you don't understand something, it is a no loss situation. If you misunderstand something, it is even more dangerous. See, you're not driving your car. What will happen? You will not move from your place. There will be no progress. Now, next thing is you are driving, but you are driving in a very wrong way, haphazard way. That is even more dangerous, because you are prone to accidents. And that accident can be very dangerous also. So, similarly, misunderstanding of these principles is even more dangerous than not understanding. So, when you misunderstand this phrase, for example, we take this Atma Karanat, you should not have self-interest. Now, you can get into all kinds of problems due to your misunderstanding. He is not saying you should not be interested in your welfare. He is not saying you should not take. He is saying what is your primary motive or bhavana. That should be questioned. So, when you put in your efforts, that is your outflow. Whatever result which you get is your inflow. I am saying generally in life. If you take a family, again, relationship between two people, there has to be a give and take. If a person only takes, that will lead to the destruction of that relationship. The relationship will get over soon. If a person only gives, that person will not be able to sustain it. It will only lead to frustration. See, whenever you create a system, that you should always aim for consistency, self-sufficiency. You should be able to maintain that system well. It is not about doing something one day. It is not about doing something just for a few times and leaving it there. No. Whenever we create a system, we should ensure that that can be sustained properly. So when a person gives emotions, the other person also gives, supposed to give, reciprocate. See, then only there is that parasparam. So then this person gives and receives. Similarly, that person gives and receives. Actually, in a family life, you need to practice giving and receiving love. Again, don't misunderstand attachment to be love, because when it is mentioned about giving and receiving love, immediately many of you, may think, oh, I am giving love, the other person is not receptive, the other person is not giving back. That first statement itself should be questioned. Are you really giving love, or are you just being attached with a lot of expectations? So, what are we trying to do in the process of yajna, the sadhana of yajna? We are trying to purify both these transactions in life, that is the giving part and the taking part. Again, after the rajas, when we go into the sattva, it will become very, very clear to you, because he covers both. The virtuous who eat the remnants of sacrifice are freed from all faults. So how exactly he takes, how exactly he gives, everything is mentioned there. When we go into the depth of it, you will be able to get a grasp of those principles. But the point here is, when you give, that is when there is an outflow, how do you perfect that? When there is an inflow, what could be the best approach? So in the name of love, if you're simply getting attached, let's say to your partner, for example, attachment means atma karanat, loving with a selfish interest. That is, when the love gets polluted by selfish expectations. So you start putting a lot of conditions. You need to do this for me, you need to do that for me. Again, it is not about asking, or it is not about taking. If your conditions are very legitimate, basic, that is different. But the kind of expectations which you build within your mind, that starts putting a lot of pressure in the relationship. In other words, when you're attached, your giving is not perfect. I'm only taking these practical examples and helping you to understand the principle of parasparam. When you relate with your partner, we're taking an example between two partners, husband and wife, let's say. Now, when the husband is giving emotions to the wife, it should be one of unconditional love, not that of attachment. When there is attachment, that comes and pollutes the outflow. So when there is attachment, you will not give the necessary space to the other person. You will go and stick to the other person mentally. See, for example, if two people are shaking hands, let's say you shake hands with someone. Now, up to a point, it is very enjoyable. But what is very important is when you're shaking hands, you should know when you should also leave it. Supposing the other person is continuously shaking hands for 1-2 hours with you. Now, at some point, you will start resisting, you will get irritated. So, when the outflow is that of love, there is a beautiful mix of spending time, the necessary required space, the freedom, everything will get connected so beautifully. When there is attachment, all these things will will get polluted, which will lead to quarrel. That's what he means by calamity. Anything which goes wrong outside is symbolized by that dimension calamity. When we were seeing the different dimensions of agam, no? We were seeing that. So when you're doing your sadhana, when you're trying to practice all these principles, this is something which you should have in your mind, the back of your mind. That is, we are trying to perfect our experiences in life, number one, because life is nothing but a flow of experiences only. It's called anubhava dhara, means flow of anubhava, experiences. Now, how are we trying to perfect experiences? Every experience has these two aspects, outflow, inflow. So, we are taking up the outflow, trying to perfect it. We are taking up the inflow and trying to perfect it. How? By attuning yourself to those higher principles, the higher wisdom, the higher values pertaining to both outflow and inflow. This is what is this ancient wisdom all about. Without putting the effort to gain this wisdom, how is it possible to perfect these aspects? So, when you start taking care of both these aspects, what goes out of you and what comes into you, now your experiences will start improving in terms of quality. When your experiences start improving in terms of quality, the quality of your life itself will increase. Your whole life will get transformed. How? Because your personality is getting transformed. So, through self-transformation, we are able to achieve life transformation, which is what the yogis are trying to tell us. If you try any other way, it will not work. This ancient wisdom alone is the solution for all the issues of life. And when I say ancient, it's not that we are giving importance only to those people who lived long back, and it's not because it is ancient. It is because it is attuned to the higher principles of life. So today, if somebody discovers the same principles, then it will work there also. The ancientness, when we use the phrase ancient wisdom, that that adds on to the value, because the mind has a lot of value for something which is ancient, that's all. But this wisdom is great, this wisdom is so wonderful, not merely because it is ancient, it is because it is attuned to the higher principles, it deals with the higher principles of life. So one thing is to just go through the quantity, like as I mentioned earlier, you just go through the various experiences of life, that is quantitative living. But when you start perfecting the transactions or the aspect, these two aspects of every experience, then you start leading a quality life. That's called quality living. So the three approaches we have been seeing towards Parasparam. Now, as and when these points are being given to you, you can make a list and you can always check your experiences. You can check these two aspects. You can apply these principles in these two aspects of giving and taking, and you will start getting a hang of it. What does it exactly mean by balancing the giving and taking? It is not merely quantitative balancing, it is qualitative balancing. So what is exactly selflessness? Selflessness doesn't mean you only give and never take, as some people misunderstand. It's not that. Selflessness means not emphasizing on that lower self. Selflessness, that lower self or the ego is gone. The emphasis is not on that. That is what is selflessness. Whether you are giving or taking, it really does not matter. Sometimes in certain areas you may have to take a little more. Sometimes in certain area, in the same area also, in certain situations, you may have to give a little more. This is with reference to quantity. That will keep on changing according to the situation. But here we are talking about improving the quality. So just a superficial understanding of this, or superficially listening to one talk or two talks will really not give you the whole wisdom. The wisdom in its entirety can be absorbed only by repeated listening, seeing it from different angles, practicing that. You will, because when you will feel as if you have understood it. But when you go and practice it, you will face a lot of issues. So then why is this, why is that? So many questions will come. Again those will get answered. Then you will practice further, your practice will deepen. This is the process through which you can actually absorb this wisdom in its entirety. If you stop midway, it will be a partial absorption. That is where people make a mistake. It will lead to misunderstanding of this philosophy. So when he talks of Atma Karanat, self-interest, as I told you, a Rajasic person does give, and he also takes, but somewhere down the line his emphasis is on taking. So that ultimately pollutes the outflow, the giving part also. So what is very interesting is, see, when we talk of self-interest, which is selfish expectations, Atma Karanat, now it is easy to locate your expectations in a gross way. There is gross expectations. But it is difficult to locate subtle expectations. We are talking of selfish expectations, So some people will say, I don't want anything in return. But let us say they are looking for recognition. That is also something which they are wanting only. So you have to understand this principle of Atma Karanat in a very deep way. Just because a person says that I don't want money, I don't want this, I don't want that, that doesn't mean he or she doesn't want anything. So a Rajasic person, whenever he acts, he has always a selfish motive. That is what we mean by Atma Karanat, Either he will want something gross in return, or he will want something subtle in return. Supposing you are doing charity to someone, you are helping someone, you may say, I don't want anything in return. But inwardly, you may want him, that is the recipient, to say thank you or to recognize you as a giver. So you will have to locate that. This is what is the most difficult part in sadhana. In the Sri Hanumat Dhyana Yoga Sankirtan material, the 5 facets of Lord Hanuman has been covered. The energy of it is given. Now the 5th part is called Nirvedhanjaneya. Nirvedha means the capacity to penetrate. And what is interesting is each facet is represented by one god. Now Nirvedhanjaneya has the energy of the boar, the avatar, of Lord Vishnu, Varaha avatar. Now you must have seen some pictures of Anjaneya where 5 faces are given and 1 face of Varaha Murti is also given. What is the meaning of that? What is the significance of that with respect to your sadhana? You need to realize that. Varaha, the boar, has this capacity to dig deep. It can go on boring and it can go very deep. So when you awaken that energy, when you absorb that energy of Anjaneya, Nirvedhanjaneya, which is nothing but the energy of Varahamurti, then what happens? You get that capacity to dig deep within yourself. That is required if you want to overcome this tendency of Atma Karanat which he is mentioning here. See, the ego is so subtle. That is, the ego can function in a gross way. It can also function in a very subtle way, in a hidden way. So when a motive is superficial or direct, it is easy to locate that. But when a motive is hidden, subtle, that is the most difficult thing. So Nirvedha is that capacity to bore, to penetrate. That's why that the Nirvedhanjaneya, where we have called it as penetrativeness, the energy of penetrativeness. As a sadhak, if you do your sadhana on a daily basis with the grace of the higher, you will start developing this penetrativeness. The capacity to penetrate will start increasing day by day. Now using that, when you focus it inward, now everything will become clear. Whatever he is talking here, you will start reading it within yourself. If your focus is external, you will use the same thing to judge others. You will say, you are very tamasic, you are very rajasic, not with the idea of learning, but with the idea of criticizing. But when you are reading all this, or when you are listening to these great truths, you should have your focus turned inward. That is called antarmukha. See, even in the Mahashiva Dhyana, the 5 faces of Shiva, no? You have various mukhas, right? Like Rudra Mukha, so 5 mukhas that was explained to you. Now, what are all those mukhas? They are all turned inward. See, when they are turned inward only, it will become spiritual. So, even the pictures of God, now you are seeing them as external pictures, but they are all depictions of the inner mukha, the inner focus. This is again symbolized by Lord Shiva. His eyes are open, but both the eyes are looking in between the 2 eyebrows, inwardly, is just in the Shambhavi Mudra. Shambhavi Mudra is when the 3rd eye is awakened, It is only when the inner focus is developed that Shambhavi Mudra can happen naturally. There are many people who try to artificially do it out of force. That is not real Shambhavi Mudra. See, these things, these yogic secrets have been totally misrepresented and misunderstood. When you have that antarmukha, that is inward focus, when you're at a very, very advanced stage of inner focus, that leads to a complete focus on your self, the higher self, inwardly. That is the true Shambhavi Mudra, not merely the external practice. Just because you physically, you keep both your eyes like this doesn't mean now you become Lord Shiva or you become a great yogi. There are many people who propagate such things. If you practice that physical movement for a few weeks or few months, you will be able to do it. Initially, a lot of headaches and all will be there, but through practice you can do it. It means nothing. What is your inner focus? So when you are listening to all this every Sunday, when we saw the tamasic aspect, now we are seeing the rajasic aspect, next we are going to see the sattvic aspect. So when you're doing all this, remember, this is all meant to purify yourself, not to criticize others. So with the sadhana, you should start developing the antarmukha, the inner focus. Otherwise, this whole exercise will become a waste, because you will just exhaust all your energy. Whatever spiritual energy is given in these sessions, whatever spiritual energy is transferred during the empowerment, all that will get wasted in criticizing others, in judging others. So when you develop this antarmukha, the automatic process of self-analysis will start. See, self-analysis, when you do it at an intellectual level, it's very superficial. But with that inner focus, when you look at yourself, that is a very deep analysis. You're going, that's why I told you, Nirvedhanjaneya, the bore, which goes deep, which bores and goes deep inside the earth. Similarly, you go deep inside your personality. And when you go deep inside inside your personality, and along with the Guru's grace, the healing, that energy, the higher Shakti, will start healing all the imperfections, which he is summarizing in one phrase, Atma Karanat, he says, the play of the ego. So that is when you are truly gaining this wisdom. That is when you are gaining the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita. Not when you are able to repeat all this. Some people think that merely by chanting Bhagavad Gita, now they have mastered the Bhagavad Gita. What a superficial way of looking at this, Or just because they know the language part, they are able to translate or interpret here and there, immediately I have mastered the Bhagavad Gita. No way. Whatever is being said here, now that should be seen within you, and whatever corrections are being suggested, that should happen within you. Then only you are gaining, or you can claim that I have gained this wisdom. But a person who goes to such depths will never claim anything, because his or her focus will always be on the higher. So what is there to claim and all that? So Atma Karanat, to start off with, if you start looking at your motives, you will find it quite easy. But as you progress in the spiritual path, your clarity will increase. You will start seeing the subtler motives which you are having, and you will start purifying that. That is when your bhavana starts getting purified in depth. What is interesting is, sometimes, a person may say, I am not interested in wealth for myself. I only want to share it with others. Therefore, I want wealth. But that person has to check. Is he being true to himself when he says, I don't want wealth, it is only for sharing? It is better to be frank, no? I want wealth, and once I get wealth, I'll enjoy. I'll also want to share it with others. That is being truthful. Honesty. Honesty is very important in spirituality. Like some time back, one person came and met me. That is when these sessions were happening in the auditorium, live. So after the session was over, he took an appointment and came and met me in the green room, the backstage. And he put a request to me. He said, Sir, can you teach me how to heal others? Can you teach me healing? So to which I asked him, why do you want to learn healing? So the answer which he gave was very interesting. He said, because I want to do good to everyone around me. So what I am requesting you is to teach me healing, so that through me, people get healed. Now, if you really see his motive, that is not his motive. His motive is actually not to help others. The moment he says through me helping others and all that, what he was wanting is actually name and fame. I am a great healer, that kind of a name and fame. See, the problem is when you go to a master, since the Nirveda aspect is very much awakened, now just a glance at any situation or anyone, things become so obvious. What are the motives, from where is that person coming, what are that person's karmas, everything becomes very crystal clear, That's why when you go to the master, it is best and safe to be completely honest, to be completely frank. It's not that the master wants that, but for the sake of for one's own good, so that there is no manipulation in any sense, So when he said that, I told him, okay, now what is your goal? Your goal is others have to be benefited. Yes, no, that's what your claim. He said, yes, sir. My only motive is that others should be benefited. I said, then why should it be through you? Do you think that the person whom you're talking to, I'm having healing powers? He said, yes. Do you think there are many siddhas who are having healing powers? Yes. So simply now request them, no? Request the siddhas. Whomever you want to get healed, please heal. Because your motive is they have to, something good has to happen to people around you. If that is your motive, directly now let the healing go to them. Now why should it come through you? So when that was told to him, it really hit him. So then I had to explain to him. I said, see, this is a big block. You're wanting something, your motive is something, and you're trying to, camouflage it with a noble motive. It will not work. Actually, it is when you drop your ego, that ego of I am healing or I have to heal and all that, then only the healing will happen. I'm talking of the higher level of healing, Now you want to be a healer. That is nothing but rajas. He understood. So what should I do, sir? Drop this desire, I told him. Release this desire and just do the sadhana. So what was interesting is, after a few weeks, he came and met me again. And what he said is, sir, now I am not interested in all these powers and all that. I am just focusing and I am doing my sadhana. But if the powers come on their own, then I am okay with it. Let it come on their own. I am not going to go after them. So again I had to point out, see, the same desire now is coming in a subtle form now. When you say, I want to become powerful, that is the direct desire, gross, which is easy to locate. But now it's coming in a subtle form, where you're saying, I don't want all these siddhis, powers and all that, but let them come to me on their own. You're putting the same desire in a subtle way. You will have to release this also. He was shocked because he never thought that the same desire has now come in a subtle disguise, So after that, once he understood that, he started doing his sadhana in a much more deeper way. And that is when the purification will start happening. So as far as the spiritual path is concerned, you are rewarded directly based on your bhavana only. not based on what you say, or actually the more you manipulate, the lesser results you will get. Arjavam, the straightforwardness, simplicity, that is the key. So Atma Karanat is a classic example of this, where it can come directly or it can come in a disguised subtle form. So you have to be careful. So those impure ones, Agham, who cook for the sake of themselves, Atma Karanat, eat sin. Papaha bhunjate. So they become highly stressed. I told you the various dimensions of sin, the last week we saw several dimensions, and also gave you what is the opposite of that. So you can start absorbing those principles into your life. So we will just look at the Rajasic approach at a glance, the key points. We have gone into real depth. Now just a kind of a summary, but with some subtle tips that will help before we move on to the Sattva. So fundamentally, Agham means being impure. So a Rajasic person, his bhavana, his or her bhavana is impure, imperfect. So that's what I told you. You are rewarded according to your bhavana in spirituality. See, humans can make a mistake, but God cannot make a mistake, no. If God can make a mistake, then that power is no longer God. So you cannot fool the ultimate laws of life. The law of karma cannot be fooled. Even if you go to a place, one corner of this world where no one is seeing you, and if you do something wrong, that will come back to haunt you. This is the law of karma. You have to understand that that law is a universal law. Nobody is seeing you. You light a fire and you put your finger there. Will the fire burn, sir? Of course it will burn. So as your bhavana, so is a result in terms of spiritual growth. So a Rajasic person's bhavana is impure. So what is the solution to that? Start looking into your bhavana motives behind each and every action and start purifying your bhavana. As the Siddhas say, Shuddha Bhavana. A Sattvic person's bhavana is pure. Shuddhata. Shuddhata means purity. You may say my action is good, my words are good, all these things are okay. But finally, what is your bhavana? The law of karma works precisely based on your bhavana. Whatever is happening to you externally, it is nothing but a reflection of your bhavana. A person who has a wealthy bhavana will attract wealth. A person who has the bhavana of knowledge will attract knowledge. A person who has a good bhavana will attract goodness. The reverse also. A person who has a negative bhavana will attract negativity. This is the law of life. You may justify, you may say, sir, I am good, but what is coming to me is bad. It is never possible. Where there is light, there cannot be darkness. Where there is darkness, there cannot be light. This is the law of karma. It works with utmost precision, mathematical precision we can say. So this is the first point, bhavana is impure. The second thing is, I am only taking the key points which actually will give a total picture. The second point is, a rajasic person will be selfish. He will start off in a good way only. The giving also will be there, the taking also will be there. But somewhere down the line, due to the imperfect bhavana, now his focus will turn towards his interest alone. Somewhere down the line. A tamasic person, right from beginning, his interest is only on himself. So that is the difference. So selfishness sets in. And I explained to you, that can be gross or that can be subtle also. A person may talk in a very nice way to you and say, oh, I am doing everything for your good, but there may be some other expectation. So one has to carefully find out. Then number 3, a rajasic person is extremely calculative in life. So when we talk of giving and taking, if it is merely quantitative, this calculativeness will work. But the moment we talk of quality, value creation, we cannot be calculative in that. Supposing somebody asks you, these lectures, whatever these sessions are every Sunday, for example, last Sunday, how many hours did Yogishri speak for? You can check the time, starting time, ending time, and say the session lasted for so long. That is easy. This is a quantity. What are all the points which Yogishri gave? You can make a note of them and easily say these are the points he covered. All this represents the quantity. But what about the quality? What was the exact experience like? Can you really explain it in terms of quantity? It is not possible. For that, you will say it is better you attend a session. Only then you will be able to experience it. So when you are over calculative in life, what will happen is you will miss the quality. So that is the third aspect of a rajasic person. And the fourth aspect is the play of ego. So when when we saw this term papaha, I told you, no, papaha means sin. So from the highest standpoint, sin, the spiritual sin is the separation from the totality, from the infinite. And when there is a separation, that is when the ego is formed. We call it ahankaraha. Ahankaraha means ego. So for a rajasic person, the ego will function. Now what is interesting is, the ego functions for a tamasic person also, for a rajasic person also, for a sattvic person also. Because a sattvic person is not yet fully realized, he has not yet become a sthita prajna. So then how does this ego function in a rajasic person? When it comes to a tamasic person, the ego functions this way: I alone exist. I cannot accommodate anybody else. When he says I alone exist, he is not talking of God, the higher truth. He is not talking of the infinite reality. He is talking of the lower self. So, I, me, myself. That is how the ego manifests with respect to a tamasic person. When it comes to a rajasic person, how does the ego manifest? The ego manifests as kartritva bhavana. I am the doer attitude. And bhoktritva bhavana. I am the enjoyer. I am the experiencer. I want you to make a note of these things because this will really help you. It'll give you a deep insight with respect to purifying your bhavana. When you're performing an action, where is your focus? On the action or on the fact that you are doing that action? How the ego manifests for a sattvic person, that we will see later. But the tamas is very clear. Now you need to understand the rajasic perspective, the rajasic approach in a deep way. The ego cannot be assessed based on the external activity. It is the internal attitude. So, two people may be doing the same activity. One person may be doing it with kartritva bhavana, I am the doer attitude. Another person may not have it. So, the I comes in front. The emphasis is on I. So, such a person may be externally doing a so-called spiritual activity, but it will still be rajasic. When a rajasic person, for example, performs a ritual, what will he focus on? He will focus on the show part. The simplicity will be missing. He will want a recognition from it, that I am the doer attitude will be there. Whereas when a sattvic person, when he does an activity, that kartritva bhavana will not be there. It is not that it is a state of no ego, but the ego is reduced to a very minimum extent. How that manifests, that we will see later. So you may ask me, sir, what is wrong? Isn't it a fact that I am only doing that action? Yes, but if your emphasis is on the I, then the quality of that action will suffer. You see, any creation, any masterpiece, it could be an art, it could be a drawing or sculpting or the act of sculpting or singing, dancing, let it be anything. When that person is performing that art, that person will lose the kartritva bhavana, I am the doer attitude. Later on, after that piece is created, the ego may come back and say, I did it. It is mine, this work is mine. But during that process, that person gets so engrossed in that art that he or she forgets himself. So when you forget yourself, yourself means the ego, that is when an inspired creation happens. A person is drawing, an artist is drawing something, painting, let us say. Now, as long as he is self-conscious and he feels that I am only painting, that paint will not have that depth. But as he is getting into the painting, slowly he gets so engrossed in that act of painting that I am doing this, that emphasis goes away. The moment that goes away, thereafter the divine energy starts flowing. Whether that person says it is divine energy or recognizes all this, it doesn't matter, but this is what happens. And when the divine energy starts flowing, there is that inspiration which is beyond self-glory. Then the art expression comes out. Same thing with respect to singing also. Even if you take a scientist discovering something, you see true scientists, they will not look for name and fame. Name and fame may come incidentally, but they will not look for that. They will be so engrossed in their research work that kartritva bhavana, I am the doer, will be missing. So if through sadhana you come to a state where in all your actions you are able to remove this kartritva bhavana, just imagine how inspired your life will become. Just imagine what will be the output of your actions. The impact which your actions will create will be tremendous. So a rajasic person acts, but the quality is less because of this kartritva bhavana. The focus is on I am doing rather than the action. So what is karma yoga? Karma yoga is consciously shifting your focus from I am doing that action to the action itself. This is what is meant when Krishna says act without ego. Similarly, bhoktritva bhavana. I am covering bhoktritva bhavana also because he is using this word bhunjate. Bhunjate means to enjoy. It's the same root. So bhoktritva bhavana, the bhoktru means the enjoyment, to enjoy. So I am the enjoyer attitude. So whenever I am the enjoyer means I am the experiencer. Whenever you go through any experience, when the emphasis is on the fact that I am experiencing, now you will lose the quality of that experience. Just as with respect to work, I am the doer is a show spoiler. Similarly, I am the enjoyer actually reduces your enjoyment. Now this may be very strange to you. Sir, the thought that I am the enjoyer will reduce my enjoyment? How is that possible? It's a fact. You again think about it. Let us take an example of a sense enjoyment. Even a sensual enjoyment. At the peak of that enjoyment, that a person will not have that ego. It is only when that ego goes away that person gets that enjoyment. He becomes one with the sense object, as it were. He loses that ego. When I say he, it is he or she, okay? Anyone. So when you are in the peak of action, if the kartritva bhavana is not there, the quality of the action improves. When you are enjoying something, when you are in the peak of enjoyment, if the bhoktritva bhavana is not there, then the enjoyment factor increases. Actually, the very word ecstasy is derived from its roots, which means to stand out. When you stand outside yourself, means standing within means the ego is there. When you disidentify yourself from the lower self, that is when you can experience ecstasy. It's so true with respect to the spiritual experiences. What happens in meditation? As you are meditating, the ego just gets dissolved. That is when you start experiencing the ecstasy, the ecstatic experience of that infinite. If you are sitting with eyes closed and you're thinking, I am meditating, supposing a person has such a thought, I am self-realized. Some people say, I want to become self-realized. It's only when you drop that I you can become self-realized. One sadhak has asked a question. Anyway, we have come to the end of the session, so I am taking up that question because it's very much related to this. It's a long question, that's why I am giving the gist of that question. Basically what he has asked is, sir, I have been doing the sadhana for the last 10 years. He is talking of Yoga Sankirtan sadhana. But why is it that I have not reached the level of the holy siddhas? Because I always say, offer your gratitude to all the holy masters, the holy siddhas. So he has asked this question, why is it that I have not reached the level of Buddha or any master? He has used the word holy siddhas. Now, I am directly answering that question. It's also a message to all the other sadhaks also. The reason why you have not become, let's say, for example, Buddha, is because you're meditating in order to become a Buddha, in order to become a Siddha or a master. So it's a Rajasic approach. You're not truly meditating, you're not truly doing the Yoga Sankirtan sadhana. You're doing the Yoga Sankirtan sadhana to become a master. So that will only boost your ego. See, this is what I'm saying. This is a subtle point, No doubt you've been consistent with respect to the external sadhana of Yoga Sankirtan, and it looks like a great spiritual motive when you say that I want to realize. But you see, when you say I want to realize, what does that really mean? Are you saying that I want to become one with the infinite? I want to purify myself and become one with the infinite? Or are you saying I want to be a self-realized soul, which means a better version of your own ego? Are you able to catch this point? It's not dissolution of ego. It is actually increase of ego. So you are doing the Yoga Sankirtan sadhana so that you can become like Buddha, or you can become like the way many siddhas are there, many yogis have been there. So you want to become like them. So that is why you will never become like them. Because masters never meditated or never did sadhana in order to become masters. What does it mean by being a master? That itself is an ego trip, No master worth the name will consider himself or herself as a master. No yogi will consider himself as a yogi. That feeling will not be there. That kartrutva, that bhoktrutva, all these things will not be there. So you are doing your sadhana with so much of I am the doer attitude. You have projected this ego not only in your present state, you have projected it to the future and say, I will become a master one day, I will become a self-realized soul one day, I will become a Siddha. That emphasis is on I. So that is why the sadhana is not giving you good results, the results which you are wanting. So my request to you is that from this moment onwards, start doing the same sadhana without wanting to become a siddha and all that. Just for self-purification. Bring that motive. Do it in a very humble way. You are being externally humble, but internally you are something else. Your bhavana is different. I am being very direct. It may hurt the questioner a little bit, but what is getting hurt is again the ego only. So my request is, don't be bothered about all that. This is what is truly beneficial for you. So this is a message for all the sadhaks. You may be doing your sadhana externally, but now this is an opportunity. You should start checking your bhavana, the bhavana with which you are doing your sadhana. That also should be purified. And as I told you, sometimes the motives may be gross, it's easy to find. In this case, the question has come, the motive is very subtle because it looks like a spiritual goal when you say, I want to become a siddha. But that is not a spiritual goal. That is only a glorification of ego which you are wanting. The kartritva bhavana and the bhoktritva bhavana are very, very strong. If they are strong, that is an issue which can be easily solved through effort. But the problem here is you are not aware of it. That is why I am bringing that awareness. That's the reason why I am being very straightforward here. The straightforward approach will instantly awaken that awareness. Why? Because this is told with genuine love and affection, because you're doing the sadhana, you're sticking to the sadhana part. You're saying, I've been doing the Yoga Sankirtan sadhana for 10 years now. I'm in that long mail which you've written, you have said almost every day, just a few days you can remember where you have skipped, but otherwise you've been doing the sadhana consistently. So when you're so consistent about your sadhana, just because of this factor, you should not miss out on the true benefits of the sadhana. So think about this point which has been mentioned to you. Take that point inside you and start observing what is happening inside you. What is your bhavana? What is your motive? The rajasic tendency is creating that imperfection. So it is not allowing you to get the true benefits of the sadhana which you are consistently doing. Your consistency is wonderful. If you just make the small adjustment, the benefits which you will get will be tremendous. Okay, so reflect on these principles, and if you have further clarifications also, you ask. Everything will be resolved. Okay, so now we'll do the Nididhyasana meditation. Gently close your eyes. Do deep breathing. With every breath, I am becoming more and more relaxed. Feel the divine vibrations. With every breath, I am going deeper and deeper into myself. Beyond my physical body, beyond my emotions and thoughts, lies the higher self. I shift my consciousness from the lower to the higher self. From this moment onwards, I choose to have a pure bhavana. I am Swayam Prakashit, self-illuminating. Offer your gratitude to God Supreme. Offer your gratitude to your Guru and all the holy masters. Wriggle your fingers, your toes, open and close your palms a few times. Rub your palms together to create a warmth. And cup your eyes with your palms. Gently rub your eyes, your cheeks, forehead, the top of your head, the back of your head, your neck, and slowly open your eyes. Welcome back. So we had a very powerful session today. A lot of subtle tips have been given for you to create a genuine transformation within yourself. The ego in you will not like it because these principles will threaten the very existence of your ego. So that is where the surrender comes into the picture. So when you surrender to the Guru Shakti, then the ego can be set aside and you can focus on your sadhana, you can absorb these principles and get maximum benefits. But if that surrender is not there, then it becomes very difficult. The ego can come and spoil the whole sadhana which you're doing. So do your sadhana on a daily basis. Practice these principles also. That will increase the quality of your sadhana. In the month of July, we are going to have the intense meditative sadhana on the auspicious occasion of Guru Purnima. The yogic meditation. So if you focus on purification of your bhavana, that will help you to receive that higher Shakti, higher energy better. Okay, so I'll see you in the next session. Thank you very much. Hari Om.